So this video we can do pretty quickly. Look at these four aims of Hinduism. These also show up kind of with the Dharma Shastras. Doesn't mean they were just emerging out of nowhere at that time, but they're kind of listed. Remember, the Dharma Shastras trying to really solidify what it meant to live life well as a Hindu. And we saw those four stages, and we can kind of think about these four aims in connection to those four stages. So the first aim for, again, the Hindu male life of the upper three castes, because that's the primary audience of the Dharma Shastras, is Dharma. Again, define this as relationship-specific moral obligation, those different obligations we have based on our different relationships. And according to the laws of Manu, this would be appropriate as an aim for my life, really throughout the first 2 to 3 stages, right? In the first stage, you fulfill your Dharma as a son and then as a student, maybe as a sibling. In the second stage, in the householder stage, you're fulfilling your dharmas as, a worker and a friend and a husband and a father, etc. Remember, once you get in that third stage, you still are fulfilling your dharmas, but at some moments you're pulling away from them. And then by the fourth stage, you renounce them altogether. So when you're thinking about which stages would be appropriate for this aim, it's kind of those first 3, but by that point you're pulling away. And then the idea is that you need to completely pull away in order to make spiritual progress, and therefore Dharma is no longer an aim. The second aim is Kama. Note that this is different from karma. There's no R in this term. Kama, you might have heard of this before if you've run across in a bookstore or through popular culture, the Kama Sutra. This is often referred to as the book of sex positions, the Indian or Hindu book of sex positions. And you can still go to a local bookstore and find probably 2 or 3 different published versions of the Kama Sutra, no matter where you are in the world, because it is a fairly well-known text that has definitely made its way around the world. Kama, however, is not just about sexuality. It is more broadly defined as sensual pleasure. Right? Sometimes we hear sensual and we kind of think about sexuality. Sensual just has to do with the senses, right? So think of anything that would be pleasing to the senses, right? Whether it be food or walking outside on a sunny day, or, of course, sex. So sex is part of it, but it's a broader category of what it means to kind of live a good Hindu life as you're aiming for a kind of enjoyment of this life through the senses. This, again, is going to be most appropriate during those first 2 stages of the Hindu life. When you're a boy, you are enjoying kind of exploring the world and learning things and seeing things and hearing things, and those are all kind of senses that are giving you pleasures throughout your experience. And then, of course, as a householder, you incorporate the sexuality aspect to it as you are procreating, which is seen in some of these teachings as repaying your debt to the gods. So it's very important to engage in sexual activity in order to procreate, repay that debt to the gods, and also to enjoy it, because this is part of the notion of pleasure coming through the senses. So Kama is broader than just the sexual pleasure, but definitely incorporates that once you make your way into the second stage of Hindu life. Obviously, by the time you're moving then to the third and especially to the fourth stage, Kama is no longer your goal, as you are renouncing relationships and not focusing so much on sensual pleasure. The same is true for Artha, the third aim of the Hindu life, which is often translated as material wealth and power. The idea here is especially important for the second stage of Hindu life, where you are responsible for supporting your family. So therefore, it is appropriate to aim for material wealth and power, influence. Now, this doesn't mean to be greedy. That would be against the rules, right? Against Dharma. But it does mean that it is okay to make money and to support your family, and then hopefully to support others through the money that you have earned. So this is another appropriate aim according to the Dharma Shastras, especially for that second stage of Hindu life. And then finally, you have moksha. We've already seen this term, should be defined as liberation from samsara. And again, according to the laws of Manu, the Dharma Shastras, this really only becomes an aim kind of in that third stage, but especially in the fourth stage of Hindu life. Again, we just saw in that last video that Krishna in the Gita is going to challenge that understanding of the spiritual journey, especially by introducing bhakti yoga, which suggests that we can always be seeking moksha, even in the midst of social relationships. We don't have to renounce social relationships in order to seek liberation. But according to the laws of Manu, you do. You have to enter into that final stage of renunciation in order to seek liberation from samsara or moksha. Again, it's not that this is understood in exactly the same way throughout all of Hindu history, but it is a helpful list that has been important as Hindus have reflected on what it means to live a good Hindu life. Even if we take away some of the gender discrimination, it's an important list to help all Hindus think about the different aspects of living and whether it is appropriate or not to be engaged in seeking these various things and when it might be more or less appropriate. So this is something important for reflection, even if needing to be removed from how strict the Dharma Shastras might understand the four aims of the Hindu life.